I ask Allah to make this easy for me and for you. And we are now continuing in the 6th juz' by the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. And we are in Surat Maa'idah. We completed ayahs 1 through 3, so we'll be starting on the 4th ayah. The author says here in the Tafsir, starting with the word of God, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يسألونك ماذا أحل لهم. They ask you, O Muhammad, what is legalized for them to eat? What is lawful for them to eat? قل أحل لكم الطيبات. Say, yani respond. Legalized for you are the good, lawful, and properly slaughtered animals. This means that legal for them is whatever is not wretched. Anything that's not wretched. What's wretched? What's wretched is like the vermin, the insects and the snakes and mice, and some other things. And it may mean that what's legal for them is everything that doesn't have a prohibition that came in a verse of the Quran, or a hadith, or a consensus, or a qiyas, a legal comparison. وَمَا عَلَّمْتُم مِّنَ الْجَوَارِحِ مُكَلِّبِينَ تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ. And legalized for you is what has been caught by what you have trained of game hunting animals. Game hunting animals. So game hunting is like one word here. The game is the animal that you're hunting. The game is the animal you're hunting. So you can have an animal that hunts game, a game hunting animal. Legalized for you is what has been caught by what you have trained of game hunting animals as trainers. What you have trained of game hunting animals as trainers, teaching them from what Allah made you know. وَمَا عَلَّمْتُم مِّنَ الْجَوَارِحِ مُكَلِّبِينَ. And what you have taught, that means what you have trained. Yani, legalized for you is what was caught by what you have taught, by an animal that you taught. So what do you call that in English when you teach the animal? You train it. So what you have taught, meaning what you have trained of jawarih, game hunting animals. Mukallibin, as trainers. So what you have trained as trainers, that's how the translation came out like that. And legalized for you is what has been caught by what you have trained of game hunting animals as trainers. What you have taught as trainers. تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ. Teaching them those animals from what Allah made you know. So the trainers were called here in the ayah mukallibin. Mukallibin. If you know a little bit of Arabic, you noticed here has the letters kaf, lam, ba. Kalb. The kalb is the dog. So the trainer was called mukallib because usually what do you train? It's going to be the dog. But you can train other animals too. The hunting animals, whether beasts, meaning the land beasts, or raptors. Beasts here means like dogs, the dog, the leopard, or the raptor is like the eagle or the hawk or the falcon. So they're called here jawarih because why these game hunting animals are called jawarih? Because they earn with their hands. Yani, that's a figure of speech. Because they earn with their hands. So they were called jawarih. Or They were called jawari because they tajruh, they wound. So it is a condition to eat what they catch that they wound it, because they're going to bite it. Or if it's the raptor is going to grab it with his powerful talons. They say those talons on those birds is powerful like jaw muscles. You know how strong is the muscle of the jaw? So they say the feet of those birds, or their hands if you want, very powerful. So you can eat those too. As long as it's trained religiously, the training of this animal is religiously recognized. You can learn about that in fiqh, how to deem it validly trained. And then, if it catches the animal without eating any of it, as we're going to mention, then you can eat that animal. Even the dog, although the dog is filthy, you just have to wash the spots where the dog bit into the animal 7 times, 1 time with soil, according to the Shafi'i school. But it's still lawful to use this animal. You just need to clean the spots where it contaminated the animal. So you can eat the animals that have been slaughtered properly. Like cows and sheep, you went up to them, you took them, and you cut their throats. Chickens and ducks. And the ones you can't catch because they're too fast or because they can fly, then you can unleash a trained hunting animal on it. And then if your animal catches it, you can eat that too. فَكُلُوا مِمَّا أَمْسَكْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ وَاذْكُرُوا اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. So eat from what they have withheld. Eat from what those animals did not eat from. When you unleash the animal and it catches the game for you, and because you've trained it, it doesn't eat what it caught. It just catches it and kills it or wounds it severely. Then you can eat this one. But according to the Tafsir of An-Nasafi, if your animal were the likes of a hawk, then its eating from the game does not render the meat forbidden. So he's saying, but in the case of the bird, it's less strict. This bird might peck some of the meat from what it caught, and you can still eat it. And mention the name of Allah over it. Mentioning the name of Allah over it either refers to the hunted game animal if it's still alive by the time you catch it, by the time you catch up to it, meaning your hunting animal, your trained animal may have wounded this animal without killing it. And then you run and catch up to that and you find it still alive. And then you slaughter it and you say Bismillah when you slaughter it. That's not a condition according to Ash-Shafi'i, that's a sunnah. Or mention the name of Allah over it could refer to the animal, your hunting animal itself. When you release it, you say Bismillah and you let it go. And then it will chase down the animal for you. Wattaqullah, and fear Allah. Inna Allah sari'ul hisab. Surely Allah is swift in reckoning, in judging. He is the fastest questioner. His questioning is the fastest questioning because his speech is without time, without letters, and without sound, and without sequence. Inna Allah sari'ul hisab. Surely Allah is swift in reckoning. Yani, Allah is the fastest questioner because his speech is without language and without sounds and letters. So it does not take time. And he will question all of the slaves, the humans and genies, all at the same time. Each one understands being questioned about his own life and all of that in some short moment of time. Not that the speech of Allah takes time, but it is that the slave's hearing is a created thing, so it's going to take time. For something to happen to the slaves, it's going to take time, but it's not the speech of Allah itself that takes time. And he is the fastest questioner, so he questions them all in some small moment of time. اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات. Today, meaning now, when this was revealed, the good, permissible things have been made lawful for you. Good, yan طيبات means, according to Al-Tabari, permissible. So today, al-yawm, according to An-Nasafi, means now, which means when this was revealed. The طيبات, the good, according to Tabari, means the permissible things have been made lawful for you. وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. And the food, and that means here the slaughtered meat of those who are given the book, is lawful for you. The ta'am here refers to the slaughtered meat at this spot here. وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ. The slaughtered meat of those who are given the book is lawful for you. How do we know that this refers to the slaughtered meat in particular and not to the food of the people of the book in general? Because there is no other food that requires this discretion. Other than meat, you can eat from the people of any religion. If the Hindu has bread or rice or something, you can eat it. There's no sin here. Or the people of any other religion, even an atheist, if he has rice or bread or something else, it's not haram for you to eat it. The only food that has this strictness is the meat. We can only eat slaughtered meat of animals that require slaughtering from a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew, without slaughtering in other than the name of Allah. So that's how we knew that ta'am here refers to the slaughtered meat in particular. وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. And the food, the slaughtered meat of those who are given the book, is lawful for you. وَطَعَامُكُمْ حِلٌّ لَهُمْ. And your food is lawful for them. Your food is lawful for them. So what literally means that their food is lawful for us and our food is lawful for them has two different implications. So their food being lawful for us is specifically their slaughtered meat, without them slaughtering it in other than God's name. And our food being lawful for them implies that there is no sin in feeding them, those people of the book or any other disbelievers. It is permissible for a Muslim to feed a non-Muslim. وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. And lawful for you are the chaste among the believing women. But being chaste is not a condition. It's not a condition. So the believing men are allowed to marry believing women. And being chaste is not a condition in particular. Even if they were unchaste, it is lawful to marry them. والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم إذا آتيتموهن أجورهن, and the chaste women among the people who are given the book from before you. And also here, being chaste is not a condition. It is here, this ayah legalizes for the believing men marrying Jewish and Christian women. The muhsanat among the believing women either refers to chaste women as opposed to loose women, or free women as opposed to slave women. But the loose woman is still can be married. The muhsanat amongst the people who have been given the book has the same explanation. Free Jewish and Christian women, meaning not slaves, or chaste. However, neither being free or chaste is a condition for the validity of the marriage. Because it is indeed valid to marry slave women, under condition though, not absolutely. It's not permissible to marry slave women absolutely. Under conditions you can marry a slave woman. And it is valid to marry loose women. Therefore, this verse promotes the recommendation of marrying free, chaste women. And what is true of the food is not true of the women. Meaning, the issue of food goes back and forth, but not the issue of the women. Allah made their food lawful for us and our food lawful for them, and He made their women lawful for us and did not make our women lawful for them. And there's other verses of the Quran that invalidate a Muslim woman's marriage to a non-Muslim man. محصنين غير مسافحين ولا متخذي أخدان. محصنين, as married chaste ones, you believers who want to marry these women, you marry them also as chaste ones. غير مسافحين, not open fornicators. ولا متخذي أخدان, nor taking secret girlfriends. Nor should the believers be takers of akhdan. Akhdan means girlfriends or mistresses. This is the plural of khidm, and it's equally used for males and females. So the woman should not have a khidm, which means a boyfriend, basically, and the man should not have a khidm, which would be then for him a girlfriend or a mistress. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالْإِيمَانِ فَقَدْ حَبِطَ عَمَلُهُ. And whoever disbelieves in the faith, yani whoever commits apostasy, then his prior deeds are nullified, are invalidated. وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And he, in the afterlife, is among the losers. If he dies as such, if he dies on his apostasy, then he shall be amongst the losers in the afterlife. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. O those who have believed, when you have stood for prayer, when impure, when you stand for prayer and you are impure, when you stand for prayer means when you want to pray. إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, if you got up to pray, meaning you want to pray, but you were impure, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, then wash your faces. So how we know this means if you were impure, because if you were not impure, if you were already pure, then you don't have to wash your faces and perform wudu before you pray. You already have it. So this ayah, since it's telling us to make wudu, it's commanding as an obligation to make wudu if you want to pray, then the implication is that you are impure for this to be an obligation on you. فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, wash your faces and your hands to the elbows. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, wipe your heads or wipe upon your heads. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, and wash your feet to the ankles. So, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ, wash your faces, that's clear. وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, and your hands. If you translate AD here as hands, you could also translate it as arms. Yed, so AD is the plural of yed. And yed in Arabic can mean the hand. Hand means, I mean by hand here, from the wrist to the fingertips, which is from the wrist to the fingertips is called also in Arabic kaf. Kaf, hand. And yed also means in Arabic from the shoulder to the fingertip. So that means arm. Dhira', dhira', arm. So the ayah is saying, وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ, and your hands to your elbows, or your arms to the elbows. Either way, whether you say your hands to your elbows or your arms to your elbows means not the entire arm up to the elbows. And ila, to, according to Ash-Shafi'i, means ma'a, with. That means including. So according to Ash-Shafi'i, and your hands, including your elbows. And Ash-Shafi'i references hadiths that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he made wudu, he would turn the water over his elbows. And Ash-Shafi'i uses as evidence that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never made wudu without washing his elbows. So why are we going through all of that? Did anyone say otherwise? Yes. According to Malik, ila means up to. It does not mean including. So according to Malik, you don't have to wash your elbows. Rather, it's sunnah, recommended to wash your elbows. According to Ash-Shafi'i, it's obligatory to wash your elbows. According to Malik, it's recommended to wash your elbows. So according to Malik, ila means up to and does not mean including. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, and wipe upon your heads. According to Ash-Shafi'i, even if that were a part of a hair on your head, that's valid. And some of the imams said it has to be your whole head. And some of them said a quarter of the head. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ, and wash your feet to the ankles. Wash, because there's fatha on this lam. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. So, you say, yani, the ayah says, فَاغْسِلُوا, wash, وُجُوهَكُمْ, your faces, with the fatha on the ha here, to prove that this verb of washing is for the face. So you're going to wash, that means let the water run over the face. وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ, also there's fatha here on this ya, and your hands. Wash your hands. Let the water run over it to the elbows. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ. But there's kasra here on this scene. So it doesn't say ru'usakum, says bi ru'usikum. So wipe upon your heads. Wa arujulakum. Here, fatha came back on the lamb. And your feet. So it means wash your feet. Ilal ka'bayn. To the ankles, with the same difference. It's the same difference. Isn't that what they call oxymoron? Same difference. Meaning, some say it means including the ankles, and some say it means up to the ankles, and the ankles themselves are recommended and not obligatory. And there's a recitation for this ayah with a kasra on the lamb. So you would say, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. So with a kasra on the lamb, according to a Shafi'i, still means you have to wash your feet, does not mean you can wipe your feet. Because if you put a kasra on this lamb here, then it looks like it's saying wipe your heads and your feet. So if I just translate the words that are there, it would say wash your faces and your hands to the elbows, and wipe your heads and your feet to the ankles. So someone might think is saying wipe your head and your feet means and wipe your feet. But according to Ash-Shafi'i, it means and wash your feet. And then someone would ask, how could it mean wash your feet with the kasra? If it has kasra, shouldn't it follow? Biru'usikum, wipe. Yani wamsahu, here's the verb. Wamsahu, wipe. Here's the preposition that links the verb to the noun. Be, yani upon, wipe upon what? Ru'usikum, your heads. And then according to a recitation, wa arujulikum with kasra, and your feet. So it looks like to someone, and wipe upon your heads and your feet. And then someone would say, so therefore you can wipe your feet. A Shafi'i said, no, you can't wipe your feet, you have to wash your feet. So someone would say, how means wash your feet? There's kasra there, right after biru'usikum. Doesn't it follow the head? Wipe the head, wipe your upon your heads and your feet? The answer is no. This means that kasra there is only because it's next to it and not because it has its judgment. That's valid in Arabic. Only because of being in the vicinity. Only because of being in its vicinity. It's right next to it. Biru'usikum wa arjulikum. But the other recitation with the fatha, wa arjulakum, proves the meaning of the recitation with a kasra. That it means wash your feet, not wipe your feet. And according to As-Suyuti, rahimahullah, with the kasra is valid to be interpreted to refer to wiping the khufs. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, wipe upon your heads, وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ, and wipe upon your feet if you have khufs on, or else you have to wash your feet. إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْن, up to the ankles. Well, is there any imams though that said you can just wipe your feet? Yes. There are imams who said you can wipe your feet in wudu without washing your feet. And Sheikh Abdullah said, it is inappropriate for someone to rush and deem a person as a kafir for saying that you can wipe your feet in wudu. Because some of the imams indeed said from this ayah that you can wipe your feet in wudu and not wash them. I don't advise you to do that though. Yani, stick to one madhab. When you learn the tafsir of the Quran, does not mean you're learning fiqh, not in detail. Uh, so don't take that and say, "Oh, I learned the tafsir. According to some imams, I can wipe my feet," and then you don't even know which fiqh you're following. So don't do it like that. Just take the information that, yeah, some imam said you can wipe your feet. And this was reported about Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. You said, if there are different ways to recite words from the Quran and they are all valid, does that mean all of those ways were revealed to the Prophet? Yes, that's right. That's correct. How are there different riwayat? Yes, that's a good question. How are there different riwayat? So your question here, it contains two important words that are not the same. One is recite, yani ways, different ways to recite. That's one thing. And then different riwayat, different narrations, that doesn't mean exactly the same thing. And this is a good question. So to start with the recitations, yes, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited all of those recitations. So the various recitations of the Quran are not versions of the Quran. They are the Quran. The Quran itself, um, this revealed wording of the Quran, it is an amalgamation. That means, what I mean by it is itself at the same time various ways. It's not just one recitation, that's the Quran. And two recitations is not two Qurans. Rather, all of the recitations, they are the Quran. That's how the Quran was revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Uh, and then when it comes to the narrations, the riwayat, then that's similar to the science of hadith, meaning different companions recited the Quran and they had students. They learned the different recitations from the Sahaba, and then they had students who learned the different recitations from the Tabi'un, and then there eventually became imams who specialized in one recitation or another, and they became hubs for that particular recitation. So that if someone wanted to learn certain recitation, they would go to an imam, Fulan, so and so imam. And if he wanted to learn another recitation, he'd go to another imam so that he can learn another recitation. And then, of course, you're going to find people who memorize all the recitations of the Quran. Amongst our sheikhs, we have sheikhs who memorized all the recitations. Sheikh Samir Dabliz, rahimahullah, he memorized all the recitations. Also, Sheikha Hassana, she memorized all the recitations, rahimahullah. Alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity to learn from both of them. Uh, so that's how you have different riwayat, narrations of the Quran. Sometimes they refer to the narration as they refer to the recitation as a narration. Sometimes they refer to the recitation as a narration. But the same recitation could be narrated by this one and that one. So that's why I'm making a difference for you. A recitation could be narrated by Fulan, and the same recitation could be narrated by Fulan, the recitation. But sometimes they call the recitation a narration. So is that clear for you? You can follow up if you want to. And there's hadiths about that, like when Umar ibn al-Khattab heard a man reciting the Quran contrary to how he knew. And he took that man and pulled him to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He took him to the Messenger of Allah. Yani in a very insistent way of taking him there, without giving him much choice to not go if he didn't want to. And he took him to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he told him that this man recites not like how I know the recitation. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he told the man to recite. So he recited. And then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Hakadha unzil." This is how it was revealed. And then he told Umar, recite. And then Umar recited the way he knew. And then the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam, "Hakadha unzil." This is how it was revealed. And he validated both recitations. And there's other hadiths about that. And the Sahaba, just to add more information for you, the Sahaba at the time of Uthman, when they wanted to make a standard mushaf, because there was still not a standard mushaf amongst the Muslims, spread amongst the Muslims. So they wanted to make a standard mushaf to eradicate perverting the Quran. Then they wrote 4 or 5 or 6 copies of mushaf. Each one had something just a little bit different from the other one, because they were attempting to capture, encompass or include all recitations. And they weren't able to include all recitations in one single mushaf. So they wrote more than one mushaf. And one mushaf can accommodate at their time, without dots and without harakat, one mushaf could accommodate more than one recitation, but still not all of them. So then they would do another one, and then another one, and then another one. But when you put the dots and the harakat, then this restricts it even more. He said, so is it permissible to say one form of recitation is nicer or easier? One should not say this. One should not say this. One should not say that. There's some talk about this. Maybe if we read some of Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran, you'll see, inshallah. I've been wanting to read for a long time, but no one's really, every time I propose it, everybody wants to do something else. So until now, we haven't done anything from we have a little bit from Al-Itqan by As-Suyuti. Has everything you need about the Quran in there. What are some differences between the recitations? So some of the differences are going to be like what I showed you now. Wa arujulakum versus wa arujulikum, meaning the vowel will be different. And sometimes it affects the meaning, sometimes it doesn't. There might be a shadda in a recitation that's not in another recitation. Sometimes affects the meaning or not. Or where you stop in one recitation would be different from where you stop in another recitation. That's what we learned about the 7th ayah of the 3rd surah, the ayah about the muhkam and mutashabih ayat. According to one recitation, you recite, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Stop. Then you continue. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ, etc. And according to another recitation, وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. Stop. Then he continued. يَقُولُونَ, and then etc. And the meaning changes significantly here in this case. And also there's other variances, like some recitations employ imala. Imala means you make the alif lean towards a ya. So you might hear someone recite like this. وَالضُّحَى. And I'm not saying my imala is perfect though. While another recitation which you might be familiar with is وَالضُّحَى. And like that. And some other things. Some things that I don't even have the practice to be able to try to do it right. They also might vary about how to extend 2 counts or 4 counts or 6 counts or what, or something in between those, and some other differences. Yeah, that statement about um, preferring some recitation over another, Imam Ali has some talk in forbidding this. Karramallahu wajhah. But that doesn't negate that someone might find his heart inclined towards one recitation over another. Maybe someone, for example, would learn Warsh, recitation of Warsh, and then he just falls in love with it, and that's his recitation over Hafs recitation, for example. The names of these recitations go back to some of the leading imams who were like sponsors and hubs for those recitations. I stumbled upon a reciter who recites the recitation of Yaqub. So nice, mashallah. It's not far from Hafs. Subhanallah. Okay. Continuing here. وَإِن كُنتُمْ جُنُبًا فَطَهَّرُوا. And if you were sexually impure, junub, then perform purification by ghusl. So there's your command in the Quran to do ghusl if you're junub. وَإِن كُنتُم مَّرْضَىٰ أَوْ عَلَىٰ سَفَرٍ أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ. And if you were sick and cannot use water, or you were on a journey, but be mindful, the one who's sick and he can't use water, he doesn't have to look for any water. Why would he be obligated to search for water if he can't use it anyway? So if you were sick or on a journey, Yani, when we say if you were sick or on a journey, then this is a hint to what? Tayammum. Because sick one is the one who can't use water. The one on a journey is the one who can't find water, usually. So this has in it the reference to tayammum. But the sick person, when it comes to tayammum, he doesn't have to look for water because he can't use it anyway. The one who's on a journey and he can't find water, we're not going to be able to say that he couldn't find it unless he looked for it. So he's going to have to look for it. The one who's on a journey and he can't find water, he has to look for the water in order to be able to say that he couldn't find any. And the one who's sick and he can't use water, he doesn't have to look for any because he can't use it anyway. وَإِن كُنتُم مَّرْضَىٰ أَوْ عَلَىٰ سَفَرٍ. And if you were sick or on a journey, أَوْ جَاءَ أَحَدٌ مِّنكُم مِّنَ الْغَائِطِ. Or if one of you came from the low, tranquil place. The low, tranquil place means the place where you go to relieve yourself. The gha'it here, it refers to the place where you relieve yourself. That's the original meaning there as it came in the Quran. But nowadays, as you might know, people use the word gha'it to mean feces in particular. The fecal matter that actually comes out of the body. They call it gha'it. But what it means in this ayah is the place where you go to relieve yourself for defecating or urinating. Not any place, a secluded place. Like, don't imagine yourself now uh, in a modern city. So imagine yourself not in a modern city. Like, what if you were camping? Or, you live in a village, for example, or something like that. Then what you're going to do, you're going to go away somewhere where there's nobody, where no one can see you or hear you or smell you, and then you'll relieve yourself there. That's called al-gha'it. أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط. Or if one of you came from the low, tranquil place, the place of relieving yourself. أو لامستم النساء. Or you touched the women. According to Ibn Abbas, this touching the women refers to sexual intercourse. And according to others, not necessarily sexual intercourse, could be just touching that breaks the wudu. The Shafi'is, they use this as evidence that touching the skin of the marriageable woman is a wudu invalidator. فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً. And then you did not find water after searching. So this refers to the one on a journey, not the one who's sick. فَتَيَمَّمُوا صَعِيدًا طَيِّبًا. Then seek pure earth. It's translated this way, earth, to accommodate more than the Shafi'i school. Because according to the Shafi'i school, it only means in particular dusty soil, or dusty sand. Not non-dusty sand, dusty sand, or dusty soil. Not rocks, for example, but according to other imams, this includes the surface of the earth. That's broader than soil. The surface of the earth is broader than soil. So, according to some of the imams, you can make tayammum from the surface of the earth. And according to Ash-Shafi'i, you can make tayammum from the dusty soil in particular. And so we translated it here as earth to cover all of those. فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ مِنْهُ. Then wipe your faces and your hands with it, with that pure earth. مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah does not endorse any burden on you. So someone might translate that as, Allah does not want any burden for you. وَلَكِنْ Allah reveals easy rules for you. وَلَكِنْ يُرِيدُ لِيُطَهِّرَكُمْ. Rather, He accepts to purify you from religious impurity and sins. And again here, someone might translate it as, He wants to purify you from religious impurity and sins. وَلِيُتِمَّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And He accepts to, or one might say, wants to complete His endowment upon you by clarifying the rules of the religion so that you can appreciate His endowments. صدق الله العظيم. Allah knows best. Do you have any question I can answer for you?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I do have a question.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes.
Mashallah, I heard you say something about, I caught the lesson late, and I came in, mashallah, about when the dog, for the hunter, when the dog latches from that spot to make, you can eat the meat, you have to purify that spot where the dog latched on to kill its prey.
We're bit.
Right, now I'm latched on, or where it bit. Okay, well, okay, back off, okay.
I mean, what feet? Yeah, because that's where saliva is going to be. So when he bites there, then it's going to contaminate.
So, it's probably off the top. But so it's permissible just to use a dog as a hunter when you go hunting?
Yeah, yes, there's hadiths about that.
Mashallah. Oh, mashallah. Mashallah.
I mean, wafiq. If someone wants to have a dog, he should have it for a reason, for a benefit, not just as a mere pet. Not a good idea. Subhanallah, don't love a dog like that. Brothers and sisters. Not you, I mean anyone. Brothers and sisters, subhanallah. You might see a Muslim puts one of those little small dogs in his shirt. He walks around, the dog head is popping out his collar. So don't do that. Subhanallah. Even if you take the saying that dog is not najasa, still though, keeping a useless dog, useless, so you're liking him is not useful. Just because you like the dog doesn't make it useful. A useless dog decreases your reward exponentially every day, makes your deeds less and less rewardable on a daily basis. If you're going to have a dog, have a useful one, like a guard dog, or a sheep dog, or a hunting dog, and keep it out of the house.
So, a hunting dog, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what you mean by hunting dog. It says to kill some stuff in the bush, and can that food, meat be permissible to eat?
Yes, so hunting dog is like how you might see what the people do. Like someone goes and he has a dog, this dog will chase the animal for him and get it and bite it and, shake it and kill it. And then if it's a legal animal to eat, it's permissible to eat this animal.
So you can say that it's halal food?
Yeah, that's halal, yes.
SubhanAllah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's hadiths about that. Ameen wafiq.
So, Sheikh?
Yes?
Can you, instead of washing, just a question I thought of, can you just cut the area that the dog bit in when it caught the animal? Can you just cut it and throw that part away?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
But you're going to be throwing away some meat, though, maybe. So if you want, you can just wash it.
Okay.
And then you won't have to throw the meat away. Question, is it considered a guard dog if you keep it in your house and you have other forms of protection like locks on your door or a weapon in your house? Maybe. But I haven't heard details here. But it's possible. Because dog's like an alarm. It will start barking and things. But if someone kept it in his house, should be for an excuse, though. Not just because he wants it in there. Not merely because he wants it in there. Yani, one's default position should be keep the dog out of the house. SubhanAllah, they have really strong smell, those animals. I know a place, some people, they had dogs and pigs in the city. In the city, they had dogs and pigs. Yani, I feel bad for their neighbors because it smells so horrible. Their yard smells so horrible. He said, can someone keep the guard dog in an extended part of the house? I don't know. Can you please explain how to wash dog najasa with soil water? Yes. So if something is contaminated by the filth of a dog, filth of a dog means anything from a dog. We're going here according to the saying that the entire dog is filth, everything about it. It is a living filth itself. Its saliva is filthy. The wetness of its nose is filthy. Its tears are filthy. Everything about it is filthy. najasa, and heavy najasa. So if it gets on you or anything, gets on anything, then to clean the spot that got contaminated by dog filth, you need to first of all remove the actual body of the filth. Then, when you have removed the actual body of the filth, you're going to get water. You need to wash the spot 7 times, and one of those times would be mixed with soil. The water would be mixed with soil. And a wash, by the way, it just means a flow, a wave. One wave, one flow is a wash. So you remove the bulk of this dog filth. That means, according to what I'm saying to you, just keep it easy. When you removed it, there's nothing apparent there. You don't see anything, for example. You remove the filth. Then you get some water in a cup or some other container, or like your hose. And then you run water over that spot. That's one wash right there. And then again, that's another wash. Like if you had a hose, what you gonna do? Just, for example, open the hose, let it run, close it. That's one wash. Open it again, that's second wash. You're gonna do that 7 times, and one of those washes have to be mixed with soil. If, for example, you're using a bucket of water or a cup of water, then you're gonna take your cup, pour it over the spot. 1 time, that's one. Then again, that's second wash. You're going to do that 7 times, and one of those washes, you're going to put soil in the water, enough soil to mix with the water so that all of the water becomes murky, and then throw that over the spot too. That's another wash. So you have to clean it 7 times, 1 time mixed with soil. That's same for pig filth too, same judgment, even if it were in your mouth. Even if it were in your mouth. Did you just hear me correctly? Yes, even if it were in your mouth, you're going to rinse your mouth out 7 times, 1 time mixed with soil. So the Muslim man who wants to marry non-Muslim woman, Christian woman, the Jews don't eat pig usually. Christians will eat the pig. If he marries a Christian woman, better be careful there. She eats the pig and then kiss him. A'udhu billahi ta'ala. Or so. Any other question?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
On the dog judgment, what about the people who say, like, is there a different school and is there an easier judgment instead of, the 7 washes?
Yes.
Does that work too?
There are easier judgments, yes. Some scholars said does not require soil.
Okay.
Yeah, some scholars said does not require soil. And that's why I did say, while I was explaining, I'm going by the Shafi'i school here. I said it that way to signal to the fact that there's another saying.
Okay. Barakallahu fiqh.
Ameen wa fikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have a question about the example you gave of if a Muslim man married a non-Muslim woman, she ate pork. It's a 2-part question. One, is it she ate pork ever in her life, but you never saw it?
Yeah, ever. Because that's going to contaminate, and then without the proper purification, it's going to stay contaminated.
No. And the second part is, do they mix the soil? Okay, they have to mix the soil in the water for one of the washes.
Hmm.
So they just gargle it, or do they have to swallow it?
No, they don't have to swallow it.
Okay.
They don't have to swallow it. They don't have to gargle it either. It just has to hit the spot. It just has to go in their mouth and come back out. That's yani. It just has to.
Oh, okay.
They
Okay.
probably
Okay.
don't want to swallow it, but if
No.
they swallow it, it's going to be valid.
Right. Okay. Barakallahu.
I mean, wafikum is if someone consumes pork or dog, you just have to clean the mouth. You don't have to clean the inside, the throat, and the stomach.
Right.
You don't have to put the soil in there.
Okay.
Also, not the feces that comes out.
Nice.
Yeah, or the urine. Yeah. You're welcome. Another question?
Yeah, shit. Some of the questions I'm seeing. So, if the person consumed the pork, even if they don't know, but then one day they found out that they did eat pork, until they do the 7 washes to include the soil of their mouth, they are still, the mouth is still najas,
That's right.
and that would be for how do I say that? Okay, so I know a situation where there's a Muslim woman who says she's married to a calf, an apostate actually. So that person, that man eats pork. So that until that woman cleans her mouth, the way we just mentioned, then her mouth is najas.
Well, if we assume that um, that he has kissed her with a wet mouth, then whatever he kissed with a wet mouth is going to be contaminated.
Uh, so their children are contaminated because he kisses the children, and therefore, if, like, say, I touch the children or they kiss me, then I'm contaminated.
The najasa spreads through moisture, though. It's important to consider moisture. Najasa
Correct.
spreads through moisture, so that's why I'm saying with a wet mouth. That's why I said if we assume, because maybe he does a kiss that doesn't have moisture. Maybe a person would kiss with dry lips, for example, and there's no moisture. So if we assume that he kissed with a wet mouth after eating pork and never cleaning that properly, then there would be contamination.
So should we assume or leave it alone?
No, we don't assume. So
Okay.
you will judge it as najasa by certainty, not assumption.
Got you. Okay.
So, for example, a person ate pork. Now his mouth is contaminated. And then, without ever cleaning his mouth, he kissed someone. This doesn't mean 100% that he just contaminated that other person. So then you don't have to assume that he did. But if you're sure that he did, then he did. Question. So if someone ate pork without meaning to, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't require an intention. That just like if a person stepped in dog feces by accident, you're not going to say, I didn't mean to. You're still going to. And eating it doesn't have special rule. The issue is that that's najasa and it will contaminate something. So if that najasa got in your mouth, that means it contaminated your mouth. If it got on the bottom of your shoe, then it contaminated the bottom of your shoe, etc. Question. Can we use soap instead of soil? No. Question. If a Muslim consumed pork without knowing, and a long time has passed since doing so, do they still have to wash the mouth several times? Yes. I'm answering according to the Shafi'i school. Yes. It's not going to stop being contaminated. Time is not a purifier. The purifiers are water and soil. Any other question? Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Question. Does it affect the ibadah? Well, yes. Because prayer is not valid with unexcused filth. Question. If they've rinsed their mouth since, but they haven't used soil, are they still contaminated? Yes. But if they rinse their mouth 6 times, for example, or more, then all that's left is to use the soil. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك